What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to talk about beliefs. I believe that there are only two types of beliefs. You have your limiting beliefs, the things that are holding you back in life, the things that you tell yourself for why you can't do this or why you're not that type of person. One big limiting belief I've had in my life was I'm not a people person, right? These are the things that we tell ourselves and we allow to become our reality. The alternative to a limiting belief is an empowering belief. It's a belief that moves us forward towards our greatness, that fills us with potential for what could be. And that's it. Those are the only two options. There is no third. There is just, it's holding you back, it's limiting you, or it's growing and pushing you forward. Now, the interesting thing is that any belief held strongly enough will be made true. Okay, let me repeat that. Any belief held strongly enough will be made true. So you need to be really, really careful about what you choose to believe because it will become your reality. The reason for that is your beliefs become your thoughts become your actions lead to your results, and that's your life. So if you believe something is true, if you believe you can do a thing or achieve a thing, or if you believe that you cannot do that thing, then that is going to become your reality. And you hear this all the time. You have to believe to achieve, right? Or whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And these are trite phrases, but they're true. And so we need to be really careful that we're always choosing the empowering belief, even if external reality tells us that empowering belief is not factually true. Okay? It is better to believe a belief that is not necessarily consistent with reality, as long as it is moving you in the direction of your greatness and your truth. And this starts to borderline a little bit on delusion, so you have to be really careful, because it is a fine line between confidence and delusion. But the only way to achieve greatness is to have the belief that it's possible in the first place. And a lot of times, depending on maybe where you are in life, maybe you're 23 years old, you're dead broke, you have no skills, you don't have any network or anything like that. So the belief that someday you will be a millionaire, you might look at it from an external reality perspective and say, well, there's really no data to support this supposition. And you could buy into that and you'd be right. Or you could buy into the alternative and say, you know what, because of these things or despite these things, I'm going to still overcome and I'm going to become this thing that I want to become. Now, when it comes to money, I believe I see three beliefs limiting people the most. And so I want to break those down here because there's things that even I have to struggle with on a consistent basis because the human operating system defaults to the negative. It just does. That's like, it's better to be a pessimist on the savannah than it is to be an optimist, right? Because you hear something rustling in the weeds. If you assume it's a tiger and you just start running, well, you lived. If you were optimistic and you were like, oh, it's probably not a tiger, most of the time you're probably right. But one of the times you're wrong, you're dead, right? Well, that operating system served us really well in the savannah where it was literally life and death situations. Nowadays, there's very few things that are really posing existential crisis to you. Like there's very few things that are actually going to kill you and jump out of the weeds. So it's better to be an optimist in modern world because the upside is pretty much infinite, whereas the downside is fairly capped in a lot of cases. So you're biologically hardwired to think negatively and pessimistically, and yet in the modern game of money and life, you're better off thinking optimistically. So we're battling our biology a little bit, which is why these beliefs can be really hard to hold true consistently. But I want to break them down. These are three money beliefs I see holding people back the most. The first one is that that money is the root of all evil. And this one is an interesting one because people will tell themselves this as an excuse to not pursue making money because there's only two games you're really playing here. You have the status game and you have the wealth game. The wealth game is infinite. Everybody can get wealthy. There's money to go around for everybody. And we witness this by the fact that, the average human on the planet right now has a higher quality of life than King Louis XIV did just 200, 300 years ago. Think about that. Like, the overall wealth of the world has increased substantially in that time. The access to sanitation, to medication, to technology, incredibly, like, it's not even close, right? So the people who say things like money is the root of all evil, they've given up on the hope of making money. They've adopted this mindset and said, I'm going to play a different game. They're going to play the status game, which is I'm righteous and not playing the wealth game because pursuing money is a bad thing. When in reality, capitalism, I believe, has done more good for the world than any other economic system by far. And so if you want to make a positive impact on the world, I believe the best way to do this is to do it from your overflowing cup. And the mistake I see people making is their cup is not full. Their cup is half empty. And they're pouring more and more out of it into other people's cup. And as a result, there's just the same amount of liquid just being dispersed again across wider and wider population of people. And it's becoming diluted. And eventually your cup is going to be empty and all your fluid is going to be in everybody else's cup. And it's not going to do very much good because as it gets further and further diluted, it doesn't become meaningful and helpful anymore. So the way to make a positive impact in the world then is to focus on filling your cup. And from that overflowing cup, which is now an infinite bounty, to then fill the cups of others. So I do not believe money is the root of all evil. I believe what you do with money can be evil, but money in itself is not evil. And pursuing it, I do not believe is evil either. Again, depending on your intent. And intent is everything in life, obviously. That's really what purpose and meaning. Like, you can find purpose and meaning in all sorts of things. Just depends on your intent behind it. The second belief that I see holding people back, and we kind of already touched on this, is that money is scarce. And there's only so much of it to go around. And this belief says that money is a finite game, which means if I make money, it's coming at your expense. And if you make money, it's coming at my expense. And this is a very limited, short-sighted way of looking at this because, as we already said, like, the average quality of life for a human on the planet is so much higher than it was just 200 years ago. And to think, what's the world going to look like in 200 years from now? It's going to continue to improve. And so money is not a zero-sum game. It's infinite. By making wealth, wealth begets wealth. And so, the reason for this is because, technology and improvements and innovations, initially they start out as being very expensive, and these innovations, they can't be mass produced yet. But eventually we get better at making them, and the downstream effect is that we commoditize more and more these things that were once luxuries. So think about like your cell phone. The cell phone that you and I both have access to right now is the same phone Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have. They don't have better phones than us, do they? No, they have the same exact phone. Now, you rewind a couple of years ago, and like maybe only a couple of people on the planet had access to these great technologies. But as we've improved our ability at making these things, the wealth that is afforded by these has trickled down and become ubiquitous. So I do not believe that money is scarce. I believe it is unlimited. I believe it is abundant, and that everybody can have as much as they want if they can just figure out how to bring the world enough value. If you figure that out, then the world is literally your oyster. The third limiting belief that I see really holding people back is that making money is hard. And this one I struggled with all throughout my 20s because I equated making money with exchanging my time and doing labor and putting in the effort. And that was how I thought you made money. That's how I thought you played the money game. And it is hard when you're doing that. When you're trading 8 hours, 10 hours a day of labor, that's hard. That's a bad, hard way to make money. But making money isn't hard if you have the right strategy, the right systems, and the right skills. When you have those three things, the strategy, systems, and skills, making money is actually incredibly easy. And so if that's a belief that you have, that making money is hard because you're still living that life where you're trading your time for money, Don't start by saying, what can I do to make more money? Ask yourself, what do I need to do to acquire the strategy, systems, and skills that will make making money easy? If you start from that position, well, that's a relatively simple problem to solve, which we have a ton of content on this podcast, over on the YouTube channel, which you can go check out. Just Google @Anthony Vicino, or you can go to the website, anthonyvicino.com/blog. We got tons of resources outlining the strategy, systems, and skills that have served me personally very, very well on my wealth building journey. So those are 3 limiting beliefs. If you find yourself struggling with any of these, I encourage you to flip the paradigm, to adopt the empowering belief that making money is not the root of all evil, it's the root of all good. That making money is scarce, or that money is scarce. No, money is abundant and it's infinite, and we can all have as much as we want. And that money, making it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. It can be simple if we have the right strategies, systems, and skills in place. So I hope this brought you some value. I'm looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. But until then, my friend, stay hyper-focused.